Okay, I want to walk you through this discussion board because it's changed a little bit. Changed because it's very much cooler. It's always very much cooler, right? So, the first part talks about Civil War photography and how photography worked during the Civil War. And yeah, just kind of where it came from and how it was during the Civil War, which is really super interesting. And Matthew Brady was a very well known photographer. He learned photography from Samuel B. Morse, who was the inventor of Morse code. So there's a cool little fact right there. And he had a lot of photographs. Alexander Gardner was a photographer under Matthew Brady, and he worked in Brady's studios and photographed under Brady. So, Alexander Gardner basically took it upon himself to photograph the Battle of Antietam, which was quite the battle. And it really surprised me. I went to visit a lot of these Civil War battlefields, and the thing that surprised me the most was how big the battlefields were. All except for Fort Sumter, which was actually really small. Battlefields were huge, man. They took up a lot of space, a lot of territory, because it took a lot of room for two huge, military, um, regiments to fight in these battles. And so it was a lot of space. And it was amazing, especially at Antietam, to see how much space it took just to fight the battle. I was really struck by that. I want to take you through a few of these battles, a few of these photographs of the battles. Gardner took this photograph of the deceased Confederate soldiers the day after Antietam. In the background is the church damaged by artillery fire. He had gained permission to photograph the battle from President Lincoln. The dead in Gardner's photographs were disproportionately Confederate soldiers. And I don't want to make you sway one way or another, but in actuality, with all of the research that I've done on the Civil War, I actually side more with, besides the whole slavery idea, which is kind of a big one. I find myself siding more with the Confederate ideas than I do with the Union ideas. Just because, in a lot of instances, the battles were done in their own backyards, and I think that had to be super, super, super hard to have a battle happen right where you live. So the next one is the photograph that shows Confederate soldiers at the Battle of Antietam. Time magazine named this as one of the 100 most influential photographs of all time, and you can see why. I mean, this is pretty sobering, really, to see all of those bodies just lined up along the road. Um, just along the fence. And that's a big one to me, I think. And this is one that, um, although Gardner's title for this photograph suggests it was a live battle scene, historian William Freshito Freshenito, who has studied Gardner's work extensively, believes that it actually depicts an encampment of Union soldiers the day after battle, and the smoke visible in the photograph is from campfires and not weapons. No one knows if Gardner intended to mislead viewers into believing that they were viewing an actual battle scene, but he believed that Gardner was not above stretching the truth in this photograph. And, sometimes that's kind of what happens as well. So this one says that it was on the day of battle, and you can see, just kind of the mist of darkness right there. So that's kind of interesting. And then document D says this photograph showed deceased Confederate soldiers in a ditch that had been dug to provide cover for them as they fired rifles at Union forces. So once again, this is a lot of dead bodies, and one of the reasons that so many people died during the Civil War was because their rifles were better than their tactics, if that makes sense. Okay, so they had made good rifles, but they didn't have the tactics to go with them yet. So anyway, that's kind of how it went. And so the questions that I want you to answer are: how did photography change right before the Civil War? What do photographs tell us about the Battle of Antietam? How did photography change what we know about the battles of wars? What do we as historians learn from these photographs, and what do we learn about the Battle of Antietam from these photographs? Okay. And I think it's really important to look at these photographs and to see kind of firsthand, and this is the beginning of seeing a battle from the photograph. And then in say the Vietnam War, that was the first war where we saw videos of the war in living rooms, and that really changed the war a lot. So it's really interesting to see how depictions of the war really changed the war. So anyway, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, and I will talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye.